Hi, and welcome to Old School Sports Parenting. I'm Mike Brusco, and I'm going to forego all of the other pleasantries at the beginning of this and try to get right into this because we've got a lot of ground to cover today. In the first video of this series, we covered, debunked two of the most common myths in the college recruiting / scholarship process. The first being that a scholarship is the only acceptable ending to the whole process. And the second being that just because your kid is getting all kinds of cards and letters and phone calls from recruiters, that it's a lock that he or she is going to get a scholarship. Neither one of those is true, not even close to true. So check out the first video in this series just for a little bit more detail on that. I also want to have a clarification on that first video, and that is scholarships themselves are not guaranteed 4-year agreements. They are 1-year contracts. They're renewed annually, obviously, contingent on lots of different factors, not the least of which is your kid stays on the team. And of course, it's extremely rare for a school to pull a scholarship as long as a student athlete is in good standing athletically and academically, and honestly, socially and legally too. But just be aware that it's a 1-year renewable agreement, not a 4-year guaranteed contract. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off in the last video and get a little bit more detail about the scholarship process and debunk what I think is the most common, pervasive, and probably harmful myth of all. I mentioned that the recruiting is a numbers and a sales game, both. I mean, colleges have a limited number of scholarships to award to any particular graduating class of high school seniors within each sport, of course. Since no school lands 100% of its recruits, the recruiter's job is to sell the school to as many customers, right, student athletes, as he or she can. So let's stick with the football analogy that I use, because that's where my experience is, and do a little bit of the math here. Let's look at a football staff, maybe 15, 20 minimum on a scholarship level school. If you combine the recruiting lists of all of those coaches who are in touch with high schools in each, it's usually a regional assignment. So each coach will have a particular region. If you combine the number of recruits on all of those lists, you're talking about a list of hundreds and maybe thousands of kids that the staff eventually will have to pare down before they start offering scholarships. So they'll rank those players, according to position, they'll rank them from the highest to lowest. They'll pursue other players, they'll offer the highest ranking ones first. They'll pursue other players if the first ones don't pan out. And they'll keep on repeating the process until they have filled out the number of scholarships that they have to offer that particular year. Other sports pretty much work the same way. So I think you can expect some version of that process no matter what sport your child plays. The numbers can be discouraging. To give you an idea just how discouraging, an FBS level football team, football bowl subdivision, the highest level, the USCs and Ohio States of the world, they can offer 85, they can have a total of 85 full scholarship players on the team. Now, many of them will have more players on their roster, but a lot of them won't be on scholarship. They'll be gray shirts or walk-ons that are preferred in a different subject. But anyway, take these 85 kids. If you figure an equal number of scholarships per class, you got 21, 22 for each class, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. It's usually a little more at the lower end because a lot of juniors and seniors start leaving the program if they're not making progress up the depth chart. But even if a school that size has 30 or 35 or 40 scholarships to offer an incoming freshman class, they're probably starting with a recruiting list of thousands of student athletes. That's why it's really important not to get too carried away about all those cards and letters your kid is getting. They really don't mean anything except, hey, we have an interest in your kid, we're following him. But still, like a lottery, you've got to play to win. So the first step for your son or daughter in the recruiting process is a face-to-face sit-down meeting with your child's coach of whatever sport your child wants to or thinks they can play in college. And the purpose of that meeting really is twofold. It's to confirm that your child wants to play the sport in college, and then it's to discuss with the coach how the three of you can work together to make that happen. Things you should do and things you probably shouldn't do. The coach's role in that process is not what you think. And this is going to bring us to the biggest and most dangerous myth in this whole process. A high school coach cannot get your child a scholarship. Can't even get your child an advanced or preferred admission offer. Let me repeat that. Your child's coach can't get him or her a scholarship. I can't stress that enough. Even if your coach is best friends with the recruiter from one of these schools, even if they were best man in each other's wedding, it's not going to stop the recruiter from doing his job, which is to evaluate high school talent as it relates to his school's roster needs, academic requirements, etc. Nor, by the way, will it prevent your high school coach from doing his job as it relates to the college recruiting process, which is to be as upfront and candid and honest as possible to recruiters about which, if any, of his players have scholarship level playing ability. If a high school coach routinely oversells his players, the result is going to be fewer opportunities for other athletes in the program. So, do not expect your child's coach to build up your son or daughter if the kid's talent doesn't warrant it. Only your child's athletic and academic performance can earn him or her a scholarship or even a preferred admission to a school. The recruiter is going to look at film, or actually more likely videos on YouTube or Huddle, H-U-D-L, look it up. They'll review transcripts, they'll size up your kid, they'll compare him or her with other players at that position in the recruiting list, and then they'll either stay in touch or bypass. Very often, especially if they're uncertain, but very often the recruiter will also ask the coach about your child's work ethic, family background, all kinds of intangibles, leadership qualities. I mean, coaches would like to recruit players who can have a real impact in the locker room as well. But no matter how glowing the report from your coach is, the recruiter and his head coach are the people who are ultimately going to make the decision. Grades and game films don't lie. So just remember that, and it'll save you and yourself, and not to mention your child's coach, a whole lot of headache. So what should you expect from your high school coach? 3 things. First, an honest assessment of your child's talent level and college playing potential. You may have to swallow real hard when you hear that, but you have a right, he has a right to express that based on his background, his experience, and what he knows of the schools who are interested in your kid. Second, timely follow-up when your child's coach gets emails or phone calls or whatever from recruiters. He should be forwarding those things to you, keeping you aware of what's going on. When he gets calls and the recruiter wants to come meet with your son or daughter, he should be getting in touch with, he or somebody on his staff should be getting in touch with you quickly. So honest assessment of your kid's talent, timely follow-up on contacts from recruiters. And the third thing is credibility with recruiters. As I said earlier, that last item, credibility with recruiters, might be the most important of all, because in the process of thinking that a coach can get your kid a scholarship, parents often think that a high school coach should embellish, translation, lie about their kid's talent and accomplishments to recruiters. Our coach knew that our kid wanted to play basketball at Duke, but when the Duke recruiter called, our coach didn't even mention his name. It's probably because your kid is not Duke basketball material, and your coach knows it. If he says that and didn't mention your kid's name, he actually did everyone a big favor, including other student athletes at that school, current and future. Recruiting is serious business. College recruiters put thousands and thousands of miles on their company cars or on their airline credit cards. They don't just pop in on a whim. They maintain contact lists with coaches that they trust to understand their school's needs and the needs of athletes in that particular conference, and understand what kind of kid is a good fit for their program. They don't have any patience for shell games played by a high school coach. One or two shady recommendations by your coach, and the recruiter will cross that high school off the list, or at least that coach, for the foreseeable future. So just remember that as you meet with your high school coach, your kid's coach, about the right athletic fit for your child. If you disagree with your coach, I mean, you're certainly free to do that, and you're free to contact as many colleges as you want. But if you're contacting colleges beyond what your high school coach recommends, leave your high school coach out of it. I mean, you can tell him that you're doing it, but don't think that he's going to be helpful. He or she is going to be helpful in that process. His main focus should be on the types of schools and programs that he or she thinks your kid is a good fit for, particularly as it relates to your child's talent level and really their academic abilities as well. So there you have it. Last myth we're going to debunk. High school coach cannot get your kid a scholarship or even an advanced admission requirement. Only your kid can do that with his or her talent and athletic performance, academic performance. So that's the end of that one. Next time, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to get your kid noticed by recruiters the right way. Till then, old school sports parenting. Make your comments below. Subscribe, please. Hit the bell. And if you prefer to talk privately, I'm happy to do that. Email is oldschoolsportsparenting@gmail.com. Oldschoolsportsparenting, all one word, @gmail.com. Thanks.